In an upscale district of Madrid, the prestigious five-star restaurant, El Palacio del Sabor, shines under the soft lights of its crystal chandeliers. The establishment is renowned for its exclusivity and exceptional gastronomy, attracting a hand-picked clientele. Influential politicians, financial tycoons, entertainment celebrities, and Spanish aristocrats. The tables are draped in immaculate white tablecloths, decorated with scented candles diffusing a warm light. A discreet orchestra plays a gentle jazz melody in the background, while waiters in impeccable suits navigate between the guests with precise precision. That evening, the excitement is palpable. A famous actress is seated at a central table, surrounded by admirers. Further away, a group of businessmen are chatting in low voices, raising their glasses of champagne from time to time. Every detail of the restaurant exudes luxury and exclusivity. Suddenly, the glass door opens, letting in a clothed man's simple dark jeans and an elegantly cut black sweater. Its look stands out in this temple of refinement where tailor-made suits and designer dresses are the norm. He advances with a confident but discreet step, accompanied by two friends equally soberly dressed. They pay no attention to the furtive glances given to them by certain guests, surprised to see customers with such a minimalist style entering such an establishment. The man looks around the room, looking for a quiet place. His choice falls on a secluded table near the large bay window, offering panoramic views of Madrid, illuminated by thousands of twinkling lights. He sits calmly, placing his clasped hands on the table, while his friends take their places beside him. Behind his counter, Marco, one of the restaurant's most experienced waiters, raised an eyebrow while observing them. He had an eye for recognizing wealth and power. The ostentatious jewelry, the expensive watches, the impeccable suits. It was his playground. However, these three men displayed no apparent sign of wealth. No shiny Rolexes, no recognizable designer jackets, no signs of gaudy luxury. A mocking smile appeared on his lips. Probably tourists who went to the wrong place, he thought with disdain. He dragged his feet to their table, back slightly bent backwards, in a nonchalant posture which contrasted with the elegance of the place. When he arrived, he put down the menus a little too abruptly, without the refined fluidity he demonstrated with his wealthiest clients. "Good evening," he said in a disinterested tone, without even hinting at a smile. The three men did not react immediately. The man in black, seated in the center, quietly picked up the menu and looked through the menu with a calm gaze, without seeming to pay attention to the waiter's attitude. His friends nevertheless exchanged a discreet look, capturing the obvious lack of respect shown by Marco. After a few moments, the man slowly looked up and, in a calm, polite voice, asked, "What do you recommend to me this evening?" Marco sighed pointedly and crossed his arms, as if this question required unnecessary effort. He took a quick glance at his clothes, then gave a condescending smile. "It all depends. Have you looked closely at the prices?" he replied, a hint of arrogance in his voice. And slight silence is installed. The man in black's friends exchanged a look, this time slightly amused, but remained silent. The man in black did not react immediately. He slowly closed his menu, rested his elbows on the table, and observed Marco with quiet curiosity. His gaze was both piercing and relaxed, as if analyzing every detail of the waiter, from his attitude to his arrogant posture.
Then, a slight smile touched his lips.
"I don't think this is a problem." Marco chuckled discreetly, convinced that he was dealing with a simple tourist looking to impress his friends with a dinner at a restaurant he couldn't afford. He knew this type of customer, men who wanted to make themselves look important, but who ended up hesitating when it came time to pay the bill. With a condescending smile, he grabbed the menu and, with a theatrical gesture, pointed to one of the most expensive dishes on the menu. "So, perhaps our imperial wagyu fillet, accompanied by its white truffle and caviar." He paused before adding, with a mocking glint in his eyes, "But it is a gastronomic experience reserved for a certain clientele." A silence settled. The man in black's friends stopped scanning the map and exchanged glances. They knew Marco was digging his own grave, but they let the scene unfold without intervening.
The man in black remained imperturbable.
With calculated slowness, He closed his menu and placed it delicately on the table, as if each gesture was imbued with perfect mastery. Then, raising his piercing gaze towards Marco, he gave a slight smile.
You mean, a clientele like me?
He asked in a calm voice, with a hint of amusement. Marco didn't catch the implication. He nodded, still thinking he was dominating the conversation. Let's just say we have high standards here. His voice trailed, heavy with smugness. He was convinced that this man had no place among the restaurant's usual clientele. At that precise moment, a detail transformed the atmosphere of the restaurant. A man dressed in a suit impeccable walked among the tables. Luis Mendoza, the restaurant manager, was doing his usual inspection, checking that everything was going smoothly. But in seeing the man in black at the table, he suddenly stopped. His expression passes from professional calm to sudden panic. His breath caught. His eyes widened. His complexion turned pale. He had just understood the magnitude of the situation. He knew this face. Everyone knew this face.
Mr. Ronaldo.
He blurted, his voice trembling, almost strangled by emotion.
Anaïs Isiber ran down Marco's spine.
The waiter blinked, second, then two, then three, while his brain tried desperately to assimilate what he had just heard.
Cristiano Ronaldo. The Cristiano Ronaldos.
The most famous football player in the world. The multimillionaire athlete. The man whose simple presence could turn any event into a media phenomenon. And he had just disrespected her. And sudden dizziness grabbed Marco. He felt his breath becoming short, his legs weakened slightly under him. His face lost all color. He slowly turned his head towards Ronaldo, who was still observing him with the same calm expression. Intriguing, like a predator analyzing its prey. The silence in the restaurant had become deafening. Some guests had followed the scene with an absent-minded eye, but from the moment Ronaldo's name was mentioned, all eyes converged on the table. Cristiano slowly posed his elbows on the table, intertwining his fingers with almost nonchalant ease. His smile was subtle, but there was a mischievous glint in his eyes.
So, in your opinion,
I don't meet the standards of this restaurant? Marco opened his mouth, but no sound came out. His lips trembled slightly, his vocal cords seemed to have frozen under the weight of panic. He tried to formulate a response, a word, an excuse, but nothing. The air around him seemed heavier, denser. All eyes in the restaurant were now on him, piercing his uniform like a hot blade. He had never felt such crushing humiliation. By his side, Luis Mendoza, the restaurant manager, looked ashen. His hands shook slightly as he hurriedly turned to Ronaldo, desperate to repair the irreparable. Senor, I offer you my deepest apologies. This man did not know. His voice cracked slightly. He glanced at Marco, a glint of anger and panic in his eyes. He understood that this mistake could cost them much more than a simple service incident. Ronaldo, still seated, remained silent for a moment. Then, with calculated slowness, the if rises. His imposing stature instantly dominated the waiter, who felt himself shrink under his piercing gaze. He crossed his arms, first looking at Marco, then slowly turning his head towards the director.
I want to know.
Is this how you treat your customers? His tone was calm, too calm. It was a question that weighed like a sentence. The director shook his head sharply, his forehead covered in a thin film of sweat. Absolutely not, senor. This man has made an unforgivable mistake.
An error unforgivable.
Frame felt his stomach twisting.
Ronaldo nodded slowly.
Then suddenly, his gaze became sharper, and his tone firmed up. I am not only a customer today, but also the owner of this restaurant. Marco was struck by shock. His mouth opened slightly, but he was unable to say anything. His breath caught. The blood left his face. His legs shook. He had not only humiliated a living legend, but his own employer. A wave of astonishment passed through the room. Murmurs arose among the customers. Some widened their eyes, others exchanged frightened glances.
Ronaldo N. Paz.
His gaze remained fixed on the waiter, analyzing his reaction, weighing the weight of each second of silence. Then he continued, his voice echoing in the now icy air. If I were unknown, if I had no money or notoriety, would I have been looked down upon in my own establishment? The silence that followed was overwhelming. Marco would have preferred to disappear underground. He felt all eyes on him, crushing him like a giant wave. Ronaldo paused, letting his words slowly seep into the air. Then, he stared at Marco with piercing intensity and added, "This restaurant is not just a luxury place. It is a place where everyone must be respected." He approached slightly. His dark eyes glowed with absolute firmness. "If you don't understand that, then you don't belong here." The verdict was in. Luis Mendoza, the director, felt his heart racing. He knew what he had to do. His voice became sharp. "Put your apron back on. And go." It was over. Marco swallowed hard. His world had just collapsed. He looked down, unable to face anyone's gaze. The beating of his heart sounded like a deafening drum in his ears. With trembling movements, he unbuttoned his apron and slowly took it off, feeling the weight of humiliation crushes him from the inside. Then, without a word, without a backward glance, he turned on his heel and left the restaurant. The atmosphere remained heavy for a few moments. Conversations did not resume immediately. Ronaldo, without adding another word, returned to his seat. Another waiter arrived immediately, his features tense with nervousness, but his respectful attitude contrasted radically with that of his predecessor.
Señor.
"I am at your disposal to take your order." Ronaldo nodded with a slight smile and ordered in a calm voice. As Marco disappeared from the establishment for good, Ronaldo turned to his friends, showing a barely perceptible smile. Sometimes we need to remember that respect is worth more than arrogance. Then, without worrying about the incident anymore, he quietly enjoyed his dinner, serenely.